Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for coming to find out more about the 3-minute thesis competition. I'm Sandy Flash. I'm an Associate Dean for Student Services in the Graduate School, and I am thrilled to be here to talk with you about the 3-minute thesis. This is UB's inaugural year with this competition, and we're delighted to be partnering with Blackstone Launchpad to bring this to our campus. The 3-minute thesis competition was actually created by the University of Queensland, Australia in 2008, and it was such a success that they started to promote it to other schools, first within Australia. Now they've trademarked the 3-minute thesis program, and it's taking place at about 350 universities in 18 countries. So I'm delighted that the University of Buffalo has joined in with 3-minute thesis and is going to have this competition here for the first time. Our competition is actually Friday, April 7th at the UB Center for the Arts in the afternoon. It's free and open to the public, and we are hoping to have a lot of the community and the campus community and the broader community come to hear about the excellent research that's going on here by our doctoral students. So mark your calendars and call your friends, because if you're one of the finalists, you want to have your friends in the audience to vote for you. So let me give you a brief overview about what is 3MT. It's a research communication competition designed for PhD students. You get 3 minutes on the clock, 1 static PowerPoint slide, and the opportunity to tell a non-specialist audience about your research and why it's important, what impact it's going to have. And it's really important to think about the fact that you are, as researchers, going to have to communicate to novices. So this is one of the most challenging, well, there's many challenging aspects about this task. You want to make sure that you can boil down your research that you're spending sometimes multiple years on into a 3-minute format. But you also want to make sure that the audience that's listening to you can understand what it is that you're looking into. And that's can be quite a challenge when you get into the depths of your research and you're used to the jargon and the terminology and the history of your field, and now you're speaking to people from different disciplines, or perhaps intelligent members of the community who haven't pursued higher education. And you have to make sure that you can get across to them in a way that they can understand what it is that you're spending your time researching. So there's benefits to every graduate student to think about the 3-minute thesis or the elevator pitch and why you should develop one. It's going to help you learn how to communicate your ideas effectively to a much wider audience. So your dissertation is going to be read not only by your committee, but probably by future doctoral students and graduate students in your field of research. Okay, they're going to be looking at that as they develop their own projects and look to see what you've already contributed to the field. But we want to make sure that others in the community are able to see all of the research and the impact that higher education has on their world, and how does it apply back to the common individual in the world. So this is one of your tasks as a graduate student, not only for the 3-minute thesis competition, but in life. So in social situations, if you run into an aunt that you haven't seen in years and you want to explain to her what it is that you do, you want to make sure that you keep it brief enough that her eyes don't glaze over out of boredom, and in terminology that she can easily understand and relate to. And it's going to help you as well in job interviews to be able to explain. Very often you'll be talking to specialists in those kind of environments, but not always. And maybe you're bringing a new aspect and new expertise to that organization. You want to be able to express yourself clearly. November, Blackstone Launchpad and the Graduate School sponsored a workshop called How to Pitch for PhDs. And at that workshop we had several different professional representatives there speaking about how to make a pitch to a foundation, to a venture capitalist, to an academician. If you were unable to attend that workshop, that might be good background information for you as you think about preparing for the 3MT or preparing an elevator pitch. And David Ford, who's our videographer today, was at the November workshop, and there's a link from our website, the 3MT website, to that video. So I encourage you, I'll give you the website multiple times throughout the presentation to take a look and go through that workshop so that you get the content from that to help you prepare. So to be eligible for UB's 3MT competition, you must be a currently enrolled PhD student. You must have completed your application to candidacy, so you're done with your coursework. You must have a well-conceived dissertation project, and ideally some compelling data collected so that you have a story to tell in your presentation. And you must be able to present in person if you're selected as a finalist at the competition on Friday, April 7th. You can win some significant prize money if you are the winner here, and we're thrilled to be able to have funding to recognize the top winners. So $1,000 will be given to the first place winner, $750 for second place, $500 for third place. And you want to bring your friends because People's Choice Award is going to be voted on by the audience. So you want to pack the house and make sure that you can get that. And you can win People's Choice in addition to first, second, or third place. So if you won first and People's Choice, you'd be going home with $1,250, which is a pretty good purse for a 3-minute speech. What you're going to be judged on are 3 primary categories. Communication style, so we want to know, was the language understandable to a non-specialist audience? Comprehension, did people understand your research and what you were doing? And engagement. Did your presentation make the audience want to know more? Certainly, you can't condense down 12 chapters into 3 minutes and tell the entire story. So we want to leave people wanting more and wanting to talk to you after the event to find out more details about what you're doing. So it might be helpful if I show you a winning example so that you can see someone who successfully mastered the 3-minute thesis concept. So we'll take a look at someone who was looking at identity formation, something that myself as someone in comparative education knows nothing about. And let's think about those judging criteria: communication style, comprehension, and engagement.
Parents and teachers have become increasingly concerned about girls following the 2006 advent of Facebook. It's been blamed for a rise in bullying and a decline in social skills. My research, however, takes a slightly different approach and looks at 3 things: grade 8 girls, identity, and Facebook's most commonly used feature, status updates. It's based on a simple and age-old premise. If all the world's a stage, then surely Facebook is just another stage on which actors can perform. And what do all actors want? Desirable reactions from their audiences. This involves trying a number of different strategies on for size. Should I present myself as kind, needy, self-sacrificial, talented, intimidating? So, dramaturgical metaphor in hand, I set about answering 2 questions. First, which of these strategies are grade 8 girls using in their status updates? And second, how and why are grade 8 girls using their status updates more broadly? I used a mixed methods approach, and 349 surveys, 9 interviews, and 445 status updates later, I had some answers. I collected updates ranging from long weekend, yay, to piss off, to how do people just have sex with complete strangers? I can't even order pizza over the phone. And I coded these status updates according to the strategies these girls were using to present themselves. While you would expect that bullying and attention seeking would rate highly, they didn't. Girls most commonly presented themselves as likeable by using flattery and compliments. And this is exactly what happens in offline settings. You see, girls need to maintain synergy between their online and offline identities. Why? because everything you say on Facebook can be used against you in the court of social approval. When I asked the girls why they updated their own statuses, they said, just to let other people know what I'm doing if I'm bored. But when I asked them why other people updated their statuses, they said, she'll just do anything to get attention. She just wants the boys to like her. This might explain why more than 30% of the girls in my study reported updating their statuses at least once per day. Because status updates will be interpreted differently by every audience member, identities are in a constant state of flux. Identity becomes less a question of, who am I? And more a question of, what do you see in me? What do you want in me? My research challenges the fearful notion of an authentic offline identity and an inauthentic online identity. It shows that, like the classroom, Facebook is just another space for girls to experiment with their identities and gauge the reactions of others. So, if there's one message we should be sending to grade 8 girls on Facebook, know your audience. Thank you.
So, as we watched Megan go through her presentation, was she easy to understand? She didn't seem to use a lot of jargon. Did you understand what her research was? So she's looking at Facebook status updates and how students are using that. And was she engaging? She used gestures when appropriate. She let people know, but she didn't jump around the stage. She wasn't distracting with too much movement, but for emphasis, she would use hand gestures or smile. And that's nonverbal communication is another aspect that you want to keep in mind as you're preparing yourself for the 3-minute thesis presentation. So, I hope at this point some of you are thinking about entering, and it's very simple to do. There are 3 steps that you need to complete by March 15th. The first is you have to create a 90-second video, an audition video of just yourself talking about your dissertation research and its importance. This is not your full-blown 3-minute thesis presentation, but it's a step in that direction. It's going to help you prepare to get there. We're going to be judging you based upon the same criteria. Can we understand you, understand your language, understand your research, and do we want to know more? Okay? So 90 seconds only, no props, no gimmicks, no slide necessary for the audition, just you talking about your research and why it's important. And throw it up on YouTube. If you don't have a YouTube account, you can create one in less than 5 minutes and put it up there. That's the mode that you need to have that available to us in. Step 2, go to our website, which is grad.buffalo.edu/3mt, and complete the online registration form. It's very brief, it's very simple. You'll need to have the YouTube link that you can provide to us on that form. So you need to do your video first, then fill out the registration form. It'll take you less than 5 minutes to do. And then we want you to tweet your video link to us, and we give you a specific ready to compete message that we want you to use. And if you don't have a Twitter account, which I was probably the last person to get one at the University of Buffalo, but I have one, it takes less than 5 minutes to set up. So what we want is for the UB community to be able to follow the UB3MT conversation and take a look at these 90-second videos. We want to generate excitement about this. We want you to have the ability to share your research and what you're doing here at UB with a broader audience. So all you have to do is your 90-second video, quick online registration form, and tweet at us, and then you're entered. The registration deadline is March 15th, so all 3 steps must be completed by March 15th. That's the Wednesday before spring break. And over spring break, we're going to have judges reviewing those 90-second videos. And by the end of spring break, Friday, March 24th, we will notify the finalists, and we will also notify some alternates that they're selected. There will be 12 finalists selected to participate in the 3MT competition on April 7th. So I'd like to take a look at another winning example. This is the last one that we'll do here, but there are links on our website to many, many more. So this is Maria Gibbs from Notre Dame, and she's talking about flutter and footbridges, which I didn't understand at all when I first read her title.
My friend Gloria teaches middle school in El Salvador. Until a few years ago, she would stand up in front of her classroom and look out to see students who were dripping wet because they had to swim across a river to get to school. Or she would see empty seats, which meant it was too dangerous for them to get to school that day. Now, there's a footbridge over that river, and every morning she sees a classroom full of safe, dry students. Footbridges have a transformative impact on isolated communities, creating access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunities. But these footbridges have a problem. They're light and flexible, which means it's easy for the wind to make them dance, sometimes violently. My research looks at understanding the behavior of these footbridges in wind and creating strategies that will allow us to design footbridges that are safe from wind damage. The most dangerous way that wind interacts with footbridges is called flutter. Flutter is this powerful feedback loop between the motion of the bridge and the wind that feeds energy into the system until the bridge rips itself apart. In order to predict that behavior, I need to understand the rhythm of the footbridge's motion and how quickly that rhythm can come to a stop. To collect that data usually requires cumbersome, expensive equipment, and that was not practical for me to collect data from dozens of isolated footbridges across 3 continents. Instead, I proved we can use the sensors that are in smartphones placed on a bridge deck to capture the same information. I conducted wind tunnel experiments, and along with the smartphone data, I've predicted that this type of footbridge will flutter at 55-mile-an-hour winds. That's a big problem. So what are we going to do to fix it? We need to add something to the bridge deck that's going to prevent that flutter feedback loop from developing. But the solution needs to be repaired and maintained by the local municipalities and communities who own these footbridges. So our solution also needs to meet their needs. Behind me, a group of community leaders from a bridge site in Nicaragua is using design thinking to align their interests with my research goals. We discovered that people from this community in Nicaragua are frustrated with people driving over their footbridge with motorcycles, ripping apart their fencing, creating gaping holes. So we're imagining a solution that will add X braces to the bridge to protect it from reckless motorcycle drivers and dissipate energy from the bridge, protecting it from flutter. A footbridge created access to a better future for 50 of my friend's students. My research will make futures like that possible for hundreds of thousands of students, farmers, and mothers in isolated communities all over the world. Thank you.
So, I feel like I'm pretty well informed now about what flutter and footbridges is, even though I didn't know what it was before I watched her presentation in fairly simple language, and she was extremely effective in talking about the impact of her research. You know, it goes beyond just getting her dissertation and diploma to hang on her wall and getting that first job. She's affecting lives and communities all over this region. So a very good winning example for you. Our website is grad.buffalo.edu/3mt, and on the website you'll find all kinds of detailed information for you about how to enter, about the competition itself, the judging criteria, and you're going to find a long list of additional resources. There's just a couple that I want to highlight for you. The first is the fact that UB has new video recording studios available to UB students free of charge. These are located in Silverman Library in Capon Hall, and they're open from 8 a.m. until midnight. You make a reservation in advance to use the room, and all you need is a flash drive. They have all of the equipment. They have a computer. You can set up a timer so you can practice in front of the video screen and watch yourself and show the video to some friends and show the video to some family members or people that you're in contact with, friends of yours who are outside of your field. So you're having non-specialists reviewing your practice and giving you feedback to help improve your presentations. You don't need to go to the video recording studio. You can use an iPhone, you can use your computer. It's very simple both for the audition video and the 3-minute presentation, but I strongly encourage you to record yourself, watch yourself, and have others watch your presentation to help you perfect it before you submit the audition or before you go on the stage for the final. In the additional resources, you'll see a whole bunch of videos. One of the links there are to winning 3MT presentations from around the world. That's the University of Queensland's website. But if you do a Google search about any aspect of 3MT, you're going to get a ton of hits. How to develop a slide, how to talk about your research. If you want to watch examples in a specific discipline, you can Google engineering 3MT presentations, and you'll get a lot of hits. There's a lot out there because so many institutions are involved around the world. One of the best resources that we have here at UB is Blackstone Launchpad. And I'd like to invite Hadar Borden, the program director, to come up and talk with you about what they have available to assist you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hadar Borden, and I'm the program director at Blackstone Launchpad, and I've handed out a folder for each of you to review. Blackstone Launchpad is a campus-based entrepreneurship center here at the University of Buffalo, here to support you as students and as alumni. If you come back as a staff member, as a faculty member, you're interested to take your research and turn it into a startup business. But for the purposes of the 3-minute pitch, we're here to support you as you prepare your slide, as you begin to prepare your talking points for your presentation. In that folder, we included a quarter sheet that speaks to our venture coaches. These venture coaches are here to help walk you through your presentation. They're there to listen to your presentation once you have it prepared and give you feedback. This is not a one-time opportunity. You're welcome to meet with them on an ongoing basis between now and the final competition. So as you're preparing your audition video and then beyond once you've been selected, these venture coaches all sign a non-disclosure agreement, a confidentiality agreement. So in case your research, if you're concerned about it moving forward with someone else, they all are required to sign these NDAs and confidentiality agreements. In addition, just as a resource to all of you, not pertaining specifically to the 3-minute pitch, but if you have an idea that you'd like to further develop into a startup, we're here to support you. And we also have software fellows. These are students, some at the undergraduate, some at the graduate level, that are willing to guide you through the process of maybe creating an app or a website, looking at some web analytics, if that's something that would be helpful to you. Again, this is a resource that's free of charge to you and will only strengthen your audition for the 3-minute pitch. At this point, I'd like to just mention that if you'd like to make an appointment with a venture coach, we invite you to stop into our office. We're located in 220 Student Union, and you can also call our office at 645-8111 to schedule that appointment. And we're open Monday through Thursday, 8:30 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Friday, 8:30 to 5. And again, we're here to support you through this process. If you have any additional questions, we'll be circulating throughout. And at this point, I'd like to introduce you to a UB alumnus from the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences and earned his JD degree here from our law school, Jordan Walbesser from Hudson Russ.
Why am I here to talk to you about the 3-minute thesis? Well, a lot of it comes down to what I do for a living. So, like Hadar said, I graduated with a degree in computer engineering a while ago. And then I went to law school, not as long ago, but it's starting to feel longer and longer every single day. What I do is I work with companies, I work with inventors, and oftentimes my job is to translate from scientist, from engineer, to human being, or to lawyer. So those are two different things. All of you are very smart, you're very intelligent. My job when I'm, for example, writing a patent application isn't to copy your thesis and put it onto a piece of paper. It's for me to write your thesis and write what you've done in such a way that someone can understand it that may not have a PhD. They may have a bachelor's. They may have less. So the most important thing about my job is that I boil things down. I take things from very complicated, still very interesting topics, and then convert them to something that is easily digestible, small chunks, something that your mother, your father may understand. In programming, and I do a little bit of computer work, in programming there's this concept. It's called rubber ducking. Okay, so it's exactly what you think it is, the little yellow rubber duck. Bert and Ernie had the little rubber duck. You've seen it, you know what it looks like. It's yellow. If you were in town in the summer, there's a very large one that came to Cadellside. It's a rubber duck. So why do computer scientists, programmers, engineers use a rubber duck? Well, programmers have to deal with some pretty complicated stuff, just like all of you do. And sometimes when you're trying to figure out how to solve a problem, you need to think it through and explain it. Because teaching is often the best way to really understand and really get a hold of what you're trying to do. So a programmer will take the rubber duck and talk to it and explain the situation, explain the problem. For your thesis, for something like this, you need to do the same thing. What you describe needs to be so simple that a rubber duck would understand it. And that can be hard. If you're dealing with advanced polymers, chemicals, biological processes, you know what? Those are things that I don't understand. But you need to explain them to me in a way that is concise, so quick. I'm not going to be able to read through 100 pages. You're not going to be able to talk about 100 pages in 3 minutes. But it also has to be accurate. And the truth is, a 3-minute presentation is a lot of work. Even though you have 3 minutes, it will take you much longer than 30 to prepare for this. In fact, my suggestion is that your thesis can be boiled down to a single sentence. I know. You've been spending years working on this, and you might find it insulting to think that everything that you have done and everything that you have studied can be boiled down to a single sentence, but it can. And it doesn't have to be very complicated. And it doesn't have to go into all the nuances of what you've done, but it needs to be something that a guy like me can understand. It also needs to be accurate. Just because you're shortening something doesn't mean that you have to lose some accuracy in that. Choose your words carefully. When you have that single sentence and you're doing a presentation like this, say it over and over and over again. It should be memorized. You should be able to do it in your sleep. When the judges walk away and when they're thinking about you and your presentation, they may not remember everything that you said. In fact, I'll guarantee that they don't remember everything that you said. Your goal should instead be for them to remember that single sentence. And that's it. Everything else is sort of icing on the cake. For me, when I'm giving presentations, oftentimes I will write out what I want to say. If I'm trying to write a patent application, I don't type it out. I actually will talk it to a computer and look at the words and then edit the words and then say the words again. Everyone is going to do this differently, but I find by trying to write down what you're going to say in 3 minutes, one, you get tired of writing, and it makes it a lot easier to concentrate on the important parts of your story. Now that's something that was mentioned a little bit earlier. These 3-minute pieces, they're stories. Each one of the videos that you saw told a story of some sort about the research that was performed. Okay? Stories have a beginning, a middle, an end. So should your 3-minute thesis. It should have a beginning. Why? What's the problem? What are you trying to study? A middle, here's what we did. And then a conclusion. Here is what we found out. It sounds simple in practice. It's a lot harder. Another thing that I want to mention too is the language that you use does not need to be academic, does not need to be complicated. Some people, especially if they're very smart, but in different disciplines, won't understand the jargon, the shorthand that you have to use. If you call something a polymer to me, even I don't have a great idea of what that is. I think of some floating chemical compound. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that's precise enough for what you're trying to do. But be very careful about the words that you use and try not to be overcomplicated. Let me give you an example from Winston Churchill, who in one of his speeches talked about blood, toil, tears, and sweat. That sounds pretty good. All a single syllable, all very powerful, very memorable. What if I said that same phrase to you like this? Hemoglobin, exertion, lamentation, and perspiration. Not the same. Doesn't have the same impact. Isn't as easy to digest. So keep what you're talking about simple, short, very short sentences, short words. I know, again, when you have something that's very technically complicated, it's not easy to do, but don't think that you have to explain everything in a single breath. There may be situations in your specific academic field where there are, I don't want to say politically correct, but there may be certain terms that are used, terms of art, that someone in your field would understand, but someone would not. So an example is, maybe if you're doing sociological research, you may say, well, someone in a lower income group. That's correct. It's accurate, but it might be easily described as the poor. Again, be accurate, be concise. So if that doesn't fit for what you're trying to do, don't boil it down to a point that doesn't fit your thesis. When it comes down to what you're actually going to say, generally, be sincere. You're very excited about what you're studying, hopefully. So show that off. Be expressive. From the first video, you noticed that she used different expressions to talk about what she was trying to do. Happiness, sadness, she used her arms, she used her face. It was very engaging. She maintained eye contact. So try that. That can be really difficult for some people. My only suggestion is that you practice, 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 practice. You know the information better than anyone else. So don't be worried about having to look at notes. Don't be worried about forgetting. It's just a bit of confidence. You know what it is. It's exciting to you. And just try to explain that excitement to everyone else. Other things, very minor, dress to impress. You saw the people up here weren't wearing the hooded sweatshirt and jeans. They were in some form of business attire or semi-casual attire. Do that. If you have visual aids, charts, graphs, slides, that's okay. I'm not sure if that's... Thank you, and that's good. That's good, because if someone sat up there with 10 PowerPoint slides for the 3-minute thesis, they'd be doing it wrong, because I guarantee they'd be reading off the slide. With that one slide, be impactful. Maybe you have a title on there. Hopefully you have that single sentence that explains what your thesis is about. And even better, if you do have visual representations, put them up there. You don't have to explain them, but they're just something for the judges and the audience to look at when they're not paying attention to what you're saying, because everyone loses attention from time to time. I guess, as far as timing goes here, I know we have questions and answers. I don't have too much else that I can really tips or tricks, but this is something that I've done. And of course, if there's any questions about the competition, happy to hear them, happy to answer anything that you might have.
It will be in the UB Center for the Arts. The screening room is an auditorium just as you enter the building. So that's where it's going to be held on Friday, April 7th. Twelve finalists will be selected. We will also select a number of alternates. They will be ranked. So if any of the finalists are unable to compete for any reason, we'll call an alternate up into the competition. Absolutely. Both are going to be focused on your dissertation research, but your audition video will be a separate entity from your 3MT presentation. So your audition video is what is your research and what is the impact. You're going to focus on those same things in your 3-minute thesis, but they don't have to have, you can use completely different presentation. It doesn't have to have the exact same content at all. And 2, when you title your audition video, or if you're a finalist, when you title your presentation for the 3-minute thesis, it does not need to match your dissertation title. So you can be creative and have a little bit more room for flexibility there. So you can come up with any title that you'd like. You can. We're not looking for that. I wouldn't probably put my energy behind a slide for the audition video unless you think it's going to really enhance your 90 seconds. If you think it's necessary in order to explain your research, you may do that. And this is a good time to say, you know, when you're thinking about preparing your slide, there's lots of resources on our website about how to prepare a slide. You absolutely don't want to take your research poster and put it up on a slide. Way too much. You want to make sure that you have a very simple something up there. And what a lot of competitors tend to do is in their story and perhaps on their slide, they might use an analogy that's more relatable for people who are unfamiliar with your field. And so the picture up there might be, you know, about the analogy more so than the research itself. This is an oration competition. So it's all focused on what you say about your research, how you present your research verbally, no props, and no costumes for those creative and exciting ones.
I think for something like that, cerebral palsy, I think people would understand just because it's popular enough where they heard it. But if you want to be clear, you can take a very brief second and explain what that is. So you could say, oh, well, it's a disease that affects the, and actually, when I'm giving the example, I realize that I don't know exactly what it is. So that might be a good opportunity for you to say, this is a skeletal or muscular or a neurological disease. Oh, okay, great. So sometimes if you need to use that word over and over again, it's just explaining what that is or in a slightly easier way, and then keep using it.
There's no Q&A, so there'll be an MC who introduces you. You go up on stage. You can take a moment to center yourself, but when the moment you begin speaking, your 3 minutes will begin, and we'll have a countdown clock visible to you so that you can make sure that you keep within the 3 minutes. When you are finished, the MC will come back up and we'll talk to the audience for a minute or two while the judges complete their voting, and then they'll introduce the next presenter. So there's no Q&A, although we will have a reception in the atrium in the Center for the Arts following the competition, and you can bet that every competitor is going to get a lot of questions because I know you're going to leave people wanting more. We do have handouts about Blackstone Launchpad and the resources available there, and also about how to enter. All that same how to enter information is on our website. So thank you very much for coming. I hope to see some audition videos from all of you soon. Thank you. And I should also mention we have one more preparation workshop for 3MT coming up Wednesday, March 1st. And that's going to be public speaking and presentation Zen. So we're going to give an overview about 3MT competition and how it works for anyone who wasn't here, but then we'll have a guest speaker, as we did today, that's going to focus on the public speaking portion of it. So please go online to our website and register for that. We hope to see you at that workshop as well. Thank you.